All right. I feel like I don't even know how to do this anymore because it's been so long. How long has it been since we recorded? Like a month?
We haven't recorded together in over a month.
We have not. I'm back, guys. She didn't get rid of me. I think people were thinking that. I got a couple messages like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yes, I'm just unavailable." So I'm back now, which is thank you, Gabs, for holding it down while I was unavailable.
I mean, I thank you for the opportunity, I suppose. I mean, I don't know. It just worked. Like, and this might be like the pattern and the format moving forward. I don't really know that we even have like a sustainable or like consistent format. We've talked about it on the podcast, but I was talking to our girl Lydia, shout out Lydia, and I was like, yeah, like we don't have a set like type of guest, I would say. Like we have our friends, we have our family, we have intuitives. And I actually really love that about the podcast and the format. So yeah, let's just see what that looks like in the future, guys.
Yeah. Didn't she do a good job?
Oh, that's sweet. She's being nice to me today, you guys. Do you notice? Like she's actually being nice and not picking on me for once.
Oh, because I pick on you all the time.
I mean, you kind of do. So, anyways, okay, we got a lot to talk about. Let's do our quick check-ins and move on.
You go first.
Okay, well, I'm going through a lot, guys, so I might be a little unavailable. But
yeah, she's doing nothing today. I told her today, I got this. You're just gonna vibe. I'm gonna drive. And she was like, cool. And I was like, she needs a break. She's been doing this alone without me. So I'm just going to let her hang out.
Okay, guys. I don't have favorite sisters, but I think right now Nicole's my favorite. Thank you. That's so nice.
Who's your favorite sister and why is it me?
I don't have favorites. Are you kidding me? So anyways, I wanted to say, yes, there's a lot of personal change going on over here on my side of the land, I would say. And, but I will say from a business perspective, because something I want to get better about doing is actually using our podcast to make us some money. So in the links, guys, you can support me and Nichole with our daily coffee addiction or something more, I don't know, by using the affiliate links to purchase the card decks that are listed in the show notes. And I actually was like, let me put my business acumen to use. And I've listed my Etsy shop information in the show notes. I opened an Etsy shop and that's been keeping me so busy. So yeah, she's been doing the most over here. And I've learned to take the last 2 weeks of the year off. So like that week between Christmas and New Year's. So I'm definitely doing that again. And then with my 9 to 5, I'm gonna take the week before off or a couple days off after the new year as well. But pretty much I'm giving myself like a good period of time. But I always get to this point in the year where I'm just like, okay, like I just got to get through like 4 more weeks. But it always seems to be like to the very end where I'm just moving at 100 miles per hour. So I'm looking forward to closing out this year. But anyways, what's going on with you? Welcome back.
Oh my gosh. Well, so we had a week off for fall break. That was so nice. Took my son to Universal Studios for the first time. He had a blast.
We didn't get pictures, by the way.
I know. Well, I was in the moment. I was living in the moment, you know.
You had a moment.
I had a moment? I had a moment. There was a lot of people. I was really anxious. So, yeah. So that happened. And then I went to work Monday, Tuesday, and I wasn't feeling good Monday, but I was like, well, I feel like okay enough to go to work. And then Tuesday, I went to work and I had already kind of planned on taking Wednesday off. And I took Wednesday off. And then today is Thursday. So we had a lot of we have a lot of fires going on locally. And I took off Wednesday and then schools got canceled. So my school district, my son's school district, and other local districts got canceled. So I didn't have to go to work today. So I was like, okay, cool. And then we just got notice that we don't have work again tomorrow on Friday. And then Monday's a holiday. So I just kind of like inadvertently got how many days off? Like six days?
Oh, that's...
So that's kind of nice.
I mean, so at the time of recording, I don't think I'm going to list or say the specific date, but there's a lot going on in the world, specifically in the United States. So it's almost kind of like we needed just a couple days to recover.
A reset.
yeah, from the energy that just has been. So I'm like, what is
Yeah.
going on? So I actually love that for you because who
Oh,
doesn't
I
love a couple
love
days
it for
off?
me. I did nothing yesterday and it was so great. And I've kind of done nothing today, but I've done a little bit more.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, I get to do it again tomorrow. So that was kind of nice.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, who doesn't love having, especially Fridays? Like Mondays, the Fridays off are just so
Yeah.
nice.
So then I had Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the weekend, and then Monday.
Oh my gosh.
So very
And
nice. But then it sucks because like I haven't really been wanting to go outside because of the smoke.
yeah, yeah,
So we've just been kind of indoors. Like I can't open my windows. Luckily, we're fine. Like we did have people that I know that have had to like evacuate their house, can't get back in their neighborhood. We personally have like an acquaintance that lost like half of their home. So the fires are really shitty, for sure.
do
So
do you know what Dad was saying? He's like, "Yeah, do you remember that Halloween like 3 years ago where like the whole mountain was on fire again?" And I was just like,
I
"Oh gosh,
don't.
it's yeah." It seems to be like a couple years back we had
To
the
Santa
Thomas
Ana's.
fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would like took out like it went all the way to Santa Barbara County, so that's like 30 miles north. So that was the one canyon behind us. The fires that are happening are the one it's on the mountainside on the other side of us from the Thomas fire where that was at. And it's just wild. Like you would think like September, October, November, you're not really like that is core fire season. So it's always going to
Hmm.
be a risk where we're at. So it's truly devastating and we're sending our best to those affected.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
aside from that, that is kind of it for now.
Oh,
Maybe I'll
there's
do
one
an
thing I
IVF
wanted to say.
update on the next one. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. We have a couple episodes to record soon, so I'm sure
Yeah.
people would appreciate that. But I wanted to say thank you to our listeners because I don't know how one person found me. I'm pretty sure I had a Etsy reading purchase from Switzerland, and I'm pretty sure it was through the podcast. So
Oh,
all this to
cool.
say, it was so
Thank
cool.
you.
Yeah. So I was just like, oh my gosh, thank you for listening to everyone out there. Thank you for supporting. We're just super grateful because we're coming up on our 100th episode soon,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we're close to 2 years, you guys, of doing this. So yeah, it's just wild. Time's flying.
I wish I knew the statistic, but something like a high percentage of podcasts, I think, don't make it past episode 10 or episode 20, something like that.
Oh wow.
So if you can get past that, like that's a pretty good marker.
Mhm. Okay.
Anyway, all right. Ready to vibe?
I'm ready to vibe. I'm here.
All
I'm
right.
ready.
She's going to vibe. So, as you guys all know, I have been so interested in doing all of the deep dives into the subconscious mind and like subconscious reprogramming. I'm actually doing a certification right now so that I can learn this specific type of limiting belief clearing, which I think is going to be really good because I've just kind of noticed with talk therapy, you don't like, you're just talking about everything. You're like talking about everything very consciously, but you can't really get a lot of change done at the conscious level, right? Just by kind of like talking about it. And it would be so frustrating because I could help my clients get to what the issue was and they were having so many aha moments, but it's like, okay, well, now what? And some of the CBT interventions that I was doing with clients, they would work to an extent, but I feel like I wasn't seeing the progress that I would have liked to see. So I'm hoping with this new certification that I can help clients differently and also take it out of traditional therapy and so maybe start doing like coaching or mentoring. I haven't quite decided how I'm going to brand myself. I kind of want to be like a mindset mentor, but I don't know yet. We'll figure it out. So anyway, that's been my jam lately. I've been like learning as much as I can about the subconscious mind, subconscious reprogramming, limiting beliefs, all of that stuff. And it felt really, and I've said this before, like very natural because I was like, oh, this is like what I've been doing in work anyway. This is just now like giving it a different name, a different label. But it was like, oh, aha, like this makes so much sense. So, anyway, today we're going to talk a little bit about that, but then we're going to give you 10 rules of the subconscious mind. This is not an exhaustive list. There are many more rules when it comes to the subconscious mind, but these were just some of the ones that I thought were the most like interesting or important for me. So I'm hoping that these are helpful just to kind of get you to understand a little bit about like what's going on and maybe why you're repeating certain patterns or why you even like develop certain patterns to begin with. So
Yeah, I think that part where you just said for me is like so fascinating. It's like, how do we come to believe and have certain patterns, and where does that stem from? Because 9 times out of 10, I would argue to say that they're probably not even yours, and they're probably something you've adopted from said parent or those around you that have influenced you at core times in your life.
yeah, and that's in here. So we'll get to that.
Oh, love it. Okay.
Yeah. So let's kind of talk first a little bit about the differences between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind is programmed by the age of 7. However, I'm kind of hearing different numbers. I'm hearing, so sorry, 0 to 7. So from the time you're a baby until the age of 7 years old. I'm
Question.
also hearing, yeah,
When you say 0, does that mean while you are
like,
in the womb?
well, we'll get there, but
Okay.
0 is like time of birth. So age 0. So like year 0, year 1. So like when you take your doctor, or sorry, when you take your baby to the doctor, like they kind of, I remember meeting with the doctor talking about something that happened to me right after Jackson was born. And the numbers didn't make sense to me. He goes, oh yeah, year 0. So they count it as like year 0 when they're like newborn still. So anyway, but I'm hearing numbers like 0 to 12 or even 0 to 21. So I don't quite know where I land with what I think as far as what age it goes up to. So anyway, 0 to 7, 0 to 12, 0 to 21. Take what you think works best for you. And it influences 90 to 95% of our realities. So everything that's going on is, well, 90% of what's going on is 90 to 95% is due to the subconscious mind. Only 5 to 10% of our reality is due to the conscious mind. So it really controls like everything. It's also, what are you
I
laughing
had
at?
an intrusive thought.
Oh God, well, you keep those intrusive thoughts to yourself.
I can't say it online, so I'll tell you after.
So it's also known as the primitive mind. So like think back to like, cave person days. That's when our subconscious mind, not that it necessarily developed, but it's that old. It goes back to primitive times. So it contains the limbic and the emotional parts of our brain. So that's also known as like our reptilian brain or our instinctual brain. And everything that we're unaware of, so why we develop certain patterns or how we learn certain things is held in the subconscious mind. And sometimes people use subconscious and unconscious together, so interchangeably. So you can refer to it as either or. And it's responsible for your beliefs, your fears, your values, automatic thoughts, intrusive thoughts, your imagination, your self image, your self identity, your habits, your emotions, your feelings, unconscious bodily functions. So think of like digestion and breathing, right? We're not consciously thinking, okay, I need to like digest this meal that I just ate. And we're not consciously thinking, okay, like I need to breathe, right? Because we have to go to sleep. So we're not thinking about breathing while we're sleeping. That part of our mind is what controls all of those like bodily functions. It stores our memories. It's where our shadow self is housed also. Our dreams, cellular memory, like all of that. So anything that kind of has to do with like the body in ways that we don't necessarily think about, that's all due to the subconscious mind. And so it also works a lot quicker than the conscious mind because, like I said earlier, it's instinctual. So, if you're thinking about something logically, like you might think, okay, like, da, 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 you're going to have like all these thoughts and you're going to like figure it out logically in your mind, but your subconscious mind is just going to come up with the answer like that. And it doesn't always like make sense, but it's because it's like your intuition and it's like your instincts. And so this can work for us, right? Our subconscious mind can work for us, but it can also work against us. And I think the problem is most of us don't understand what's in our subconscious mind. So for a lot of us, it's working against us, which is why I think it's so important for us to really like have a good understanding of like what it is and how it works.
Mm-hmm.
It also What?
I just think of the first example that comes to mind with respect to just like subconscious limiting beliefs that has really been coming up for me is one's relationship to money.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, this isn't even yours. Like, you've adopted this because you've been exposed to this because of your parents and how they see money
Mm-hmm.
and their relationship with money. So, sorry, continue.
Totally. So it operates in the alpha and the theta wavelengths. It thinks in visuals and symbols and metaphors. And it's wired to move away from pain and towards pleasure. So that's why sometimes it can be really difficult uh to like learn a new habit, because it's like, oh, like this is like unfamiliar, and like I don't really like this, and like we find pleasure in the things that we know, right? Whether we realize it or not. So it's like, okay, like I don't like this, and but like this is where I'm comfortable, so I'm going to stay over here. And it only knows the present moment, and it can't really tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined, which is one of the reasons why visualization can be really powerful, like a really powerful tool for manifestation, for subconscious reprogramming. Like that is one of the tools for it. And I think that's it for for subconscious mind. So for your conscious mind, that kind of comes online after the age of 7. So again, is it 0 to 7? Is it 0 to 12? But the conscious mind comes online at the age of 7. That's when the critical faculty is installed into our minds. And so the critical faculty, I kind of see it as like the bouncer of a nightclub. So did you ever see
Oh my
Knocked Up?
God. Yes, I have. It's
Okay,
an
so
iconic movie.
they're trying to get into the club, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, so the first time they go, they get right in. He lets them in, but then later in the movie, when Katherine Heigl's pregnant, they
Mm-hmm.
go and he's like telling her like, I can't let you in this club. Like you're too old and she's pregnant. We can't have a bunch of like old pregnant bitches running around here. So the critical faculty
Oh my
is like
God.
the bodyguard, or sorry, not the
Mhm.
bodyguard, the bouncer. So it decides what information is going to bypass, or sorry, what information is going to get to the subconscious mind. So it's like, like I don't know if I believe this, so no, you can't come. You're gonna stay out here, or okay, you know what? I'm gonna let you in. So that's kind of its job.
Okay, side note. Do
Hmm.
you, in your days of clubbing, w- would you judge bitches that were pregnant at the club?
I don't think I ever saw very many at the club. I would see some at bars. However, when I was pregnant, I did enjoy hanging out in a bar. I wasn't drinking, but I
No,
remember
you're
because
the
I would think,
DD.
yeah, I would think, oh my gosh, what are they doing here? They're pregnant. But then when I was pregnant, I'm like, I want to have as much fun as I can before I can't. So,
It's
and
so wild.
one time I went to this really cool bar. It was like Alice in Wonderland theme.
Mm.
And it was so cool. And I wasn't drinking because I was pregnant, and I was there with like 2 other people. And the
Mm-hmm.
bartenders like came over to me and they're like, oh, here, someone bought you this drink. I don't think anyone bought me the drink. I think they saw me not drinking and was like, oh my God, why isn't she drinking? She would have so much more fun. And I was like, and I was going to tell them, oh, I'm pregnant. But I was like, oh, thank you. And then I just gave it to the people I was with.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, like I'm just, because I wasn't that pregnant. Like I wasn't like visibly pregnant. And so anyway, did I judge a little bit? But then I was
But
one
you were,
being judged. I
yeah.
think I remember one time we went out and they were judging me. And I think someone
While
said
you were
something to
pregnant,
them.
right?
Yeah, they said
Yeah.
something to them like, she's not fucking drinking. Like she's just here like hanging out with us. Like she's allowed to have a good time.
Yeah.
Something to that effect. Because I was getting dirty looks from college kids.
Oh, I think I
Fucking
would
college
be
kids. I think they know everything.
the worst. Now, like, I mean, I wasn't the traditional college kid, but yeah, they're the worst. Anyways, okay,
Yeah.
just sorry, I had to ask. Hope that made some of you laugh.
Okay. So the conscious mind is also known as the higher mind. And so this is what makes humans human. So this is our like prefrontal lobe. This is what gives us the ability to analyze, to rationalize, to learn, to engage in like logical, critical thinking, which I know some people don't have that ability. However, if you do, it's because of the prefrontal lobe. And this is what also allows you to exercise willpower. However, we know thanks to human design, that not everybody has willpower. So it's not just something that everybody can do. That is also due to your human design makeup. I don't remember which part of human design it is, but I know it's in there. Do you remember?
That's also, no, I don't, but that's a fascinating concept. And, kind of for me, I'm like, oh, Gabby, you have to give some people grace. So yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. The conscious mind also engages in conscious choice and decision making, and everything that we're aware of is due to our conscious mind. So remember, what lies in the unconscious is unseen, it's unknown, but what's in our conscious mind is like everything that we're aware of. And it doesn't have access to our intuition, which is why sometimes like our intuition never makes sense to us logically. It's like what? Why did I think this? Or how did I know this? Because that's in our subconscious mind. So our conscious mind doesn't have access to it. So because we're always trying to engage in logical thinking with our conscious mind, when something like that pops up, it doesn't make sense to us. It's not supposed to make sense to us.
Yeah.
The conscious mind rests when it's time to sleep. So, which is why our bodily functions are not reliant on the conscious mind, because if so, we'd all be dead, right? Because we wouldn't be breathing while we were sleeping. And it operates in the beta wavelength. It thinks in words, languages, and numbers, and it can understand that short-term discomfort and pain can lead to long-term pleasure. So think about like going to the gym, right? We don't always want to go to the gym because that's a short-term discomfort and pain. But what do we know? We know that in the long term, it's going to make us feel better. It's going to help us reach our fitness goals. It's going to be good for us in the long run. But in the moment, it's like, oh, like I don't want to do this, but I know I'll feel better after. So that's due to the conscious mind. And it can plan for the future and analyze the past. Okay, so why is this important to know? So when you can understand how your subconscious mind operates and works, you can become very self-aware, and you can understand why certain things in your life are happening. Because what oftentimes happens is people are like, I don't know why this keeps happening. I don't know why I keep attracting the same kind of partner. I don't know why I keep getting into these issues with friends. I don't know, fill in the blank. I don't know why I'm always broke. So when you have a better understanding of what's in there, because again, this is 90 to 95% of our reality, then you can be like, oh, I get it. What are you thinking? You're smiling.
I'm laughing at our friends that are always complaining about money. I'm not laughing at the fact that they're complaining about money, but I'm just laughing at the fact that like, oh, this is so true and valid. And because it's real, like it's quite literally their limiting beliefs that are creating their reality as to why they may not have money at all times.
Totally. Mm-hmm. And when you understand the rules of your mind and how it operates, it kind of gives you the foundation. So that way, when you do the work like we've spoken about before and focus on rewiring your brain and like reprogramming, it makes more sense. And again, at that point it can become a conscious process. So it's like, oh, okay, I understand why I'm doing this, or I understand why I need to do this for reprogramming. So it helps kind of bring the unconscious conscious when it comes to like changing the patterns, identifying the beliefs, clearing the beliefs, things like that.
Well, it's so interesting too that you're bringing this up, because something that I'm just like taking in as you're explaining these different rules and just the layout. So I get mad at myself when I find myself complaining or when I'm being negative, because I know that there's probably something that's deeper, and there's a deeper reason as to why I'm feeling some kind of way, and it's probably related to some kind of subconscious belief that I may or may not have. But usually there's always a reason as to why you're feeling this way or some type of way, and it 9 times out of 10 will likely be associated with your subconscious thoughts.
Yes. You know why you're so negative, right?
Because I hang out with everyone in the family and everyone's so negative in the last 4 weeks. Why am I so negative?
Because your parents.
Oh my God. Don't act like you don't claim them. Don't act like you don't.
Right, but I didn't grow up in the same house as them. I didn't start living in that household till I was 18. So,
and Nichole has even though we are well, Nichole doesn't have as much water, but she does have elements that don't have boundaries in her big three and in her chart. Nicole's a lot better at boundaries than I am. I am not good at boundaries. I will say that.
No, you're not. I mean, it's a
I'm
work in
working on
progress.
it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, rule number 1 of the subconscious mind, it works 24/7. So like I said earlier, the conscious mind shuts down when you're asleep. You're not doing math in your sleep, right? But your subconscious mind never sleeps. This is how you like basically stay alive, right? Your food is digesting, you're breathing, like all of your organs, your heart's beating, right? You're pumping blood to different organs, like that is all happening while we're sleeping because the subconscious mind never turns off. And this is also, and it took me a while to understand it, and I didn't start understanding this until I dove into the subconscious mind and learning as much as I could about it. But I remember I would see, videos on YouTube, and it was, subliminal whatever and hypnosis, like 8-hour hypnosis. And I was like, what's dumb? I'm asleep. I'm not even going to hear anything,
I still don't get that. Please tell me what this is.
So I liked them, but it didn't. I liked it because it would help put me to sleep. So when I was having a really hard time falling asleep, the hypnosis, whatever that I would listen to, the different hypnoses, would help put me to sleep. So I would listen to it for that purpose. And I was like, but none of the other stuff, I'm not remembering this. I'm not hearing it. But you're still going to get the benefit of listening to affirmations in your sleep and listening to subliminal audios when you're sleeping because your subconscious mind never turns off. So if you're hearing the positive affirmations on a loop, or if you can't hear words while you're sleeping, like if it would disrupt your sleep, then you can put those affirmations into a subliminal audio. And these subliminal audios kind of work like, like a dog whistle. Like we can't hear a dog whistle, but a dog can hear it.
Yeah.
So it's just playing on like a different frequency to where like our ears and like our conscious mind can't hear it, but we can still hear it in our sleep. So it kind of is like, it's kind of like drowning out. I'm trying to think of like a good metaphor. It's going to take me too long to think about it. And I know there's one that I've heard before, but I can't think of it right now.
Okay.
But it's like, no, you know how like if you have like a fan on and then all of a sudden you just like you don't hear the fan anymore?
Yeah,
it's kind of like that. Like it's
noise.
it's still going. It's still playing. It's just you're not hearing it anymore, but it's still like you're still getting that benefit. So
can I say something?
Yeah.
So I feel like, side note, I'm just like the commentary today. I definitely feel like I'm part of the Peanut Gallery. It's great. But I'm thinking about everything you're saying. Yeah, I am Peanut. That's one of my nicknames. I have like 10 different names, you guys. So anyways, something I was thinking about as you were explaining this is because I am aware of the subconscious brain and reprogramming and doing a lot of deep meditation work, I've noticed I can't listen to the same type of music that I once was able to, like especially in the car, especially like some type of rap music that's low vibration, like P. Diddy, fuck you, P. Diddy, all of that. I can't get on board with anymore. And that's not what's playing in my car or in my home.
So there are some maybe conspiracies. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I do love a good conspiracy theory. No, I love a good conspiracy theory. They like interest me, but I don't necessarily believe them. But I heard this on something I was listening to that Manifestation Babe did, and she was talking about how she stopped listening to like mainstream music, and she was like, I started wondering like, why are they playing the same song like every hour? Like what other messaging is being put into these songs that they're just constantly trying to feed us? So I think she was kind of like wondering, are there like subliminal messages being put into our mainstream music? So she was talking about how she listens to just a lot of like frequency music. Not that she doesn't listen to, to music period, but she's like, I try to stick with like underground or artists that are less known that aren't being like, shoved down our throats.
Yeah, I can't listen to Beyonce. Beyonce does that, guys. So just so you know,
I've never been a Beyonce listener anyway. So anyway, so you can listen to the audios, you can listen to the hypnoses. You're still going to get the benefit, even if consciously you don't know what's happening. However, stick with it. You need to stick with it for at least like 21 days to be able to get the benefit. And I would caution you, please, please, please be very careful of where you get your audios from online, especially on YouTube. It needs to be a reputable channel. If you guys want to make your own subliminal audios with your own affirmations, you can come to me and I'll charge you a very nominal fee, like very affordable, and you can have your own custom affirmations for anything you want. And you can even watch me do it so that way you know what's in it. So anyway.
Not just that, you know what we should do for our intro music and our outro music? And if we do
put a subliminal message?
Yeah, we should. But like one that's like focused on...
Leave us a review. 5 stars.
Not just that, but also like, may you receive more money, may you earn more money, whatever. Something around you receiving. Like, I feel like people would love that. You know.
Well, I have talked about it before, and I think Phil might have called me out on it and asked me, but I never did. I'm sorry, Phil. If you guys leave us a review and let us know you left us a review, like I'll make one. I'll make a abundance one. I'll make a self-confidence. I think we just hadn't kind of narrowed down what people were interested in.
And then she's going to add you to her email list, and then you'll be in her ecosystem and all the things. And we're finally.
And I never sent emails, so don't worry, I'm not going to spam you. I think I've sent one.
I didn't get it. How did I not get that? Am I not on your email list?
I don't think so.
I want to be on your email list.
It was just like a nothing email, like, hey guys. Yeah, it was a nothing email.
Well, anyways, guys, we're going to be using the podcast for more strategic business purposes moving forward. We're trying to get better about that.
Yes. Okay. Rule number 2. The subconscious mind contains a historical record of your entire life and of your past. So we've spoken about the Akashic records before. Gabs, what are the Akashic records?
It is pretty much the energy of everything that has been, is, and will be. It's kind of like Hogwarts, really.
Yeah, so we're reading Harry Potter right now. It's so good.
So good.
So
wait, side note, Nichole has never read Harry Potter, and she's not until it had, I mean, she's in her...
I'm 41.
I didn't want to say your age.
How old am I?
You're 41. You're 41, I'm 32, because we're 9 years apart exactly to the day, which is why we're the spiritual sisters. We're actually sisters born on the same day, 9 years apart, guys. If you didn't know, now you know. But yeah, Nichole has not read. You watched the movies, right? Oh, you guys, okay. So Nicole's barely getting on the wagon, but you know what? It's just in time for the HBO series that's going to drop.
I'm a Ravenclaw.
Are you really?
Mm-hmm. I took a test the other day. My son wants to be a Gryffindor like Harry Potter, but I haven't had him take the test yet. So anyway, but I'm a Ravenclaw. I still don't know much about them. Anyway, so the subconscious mind is basically like your own personal Akashic records. So every single memory that you've had, past, present, anything that maybe would go on in the future, like everything is like organized and stored like in your subconscious mind. And not only is it your subconscious mind for this lifetime, it also is what happened in past lives. So it holds a memory of things that happened to you in past lives. It holds the memory of things that happened to other generations of your family, because memories are stored in our DNA. So you know how sometimes they say, like, I've heard before how like Holocaust survivors, all of that trauma was passed down in the DNA, and so people that maybe didn't experience the Holocaust, like people that are our age or this generation, they still have like the memories and the trauma of that because it's carried through the DNA. So your subconscious mind is going to store everything, your life, past lives, and lives of family members that have been passed down to you that you weren't obviously born for or even had a past life during.
It's so interesting you say that, because that actually came up in a reading I just did right before we started recording, and not a surprise, because a lot of the vaginal issues that I have talked about on this show that I have, I'm like, these aren't mine. These are definitely generational. So I 1000% believe that. But I remember when I first, like when I had my second reading or something like that, she had said, like, you know, you have like PCOS like symptoms, when we didn't know what it was at the time. And I'm like, that's not mine. And I thought she was crazy. I was like, no, this is bullshit, but no, it's real. So anyways, sorry.
Yeah.
Just had to say that.
So also the first time that any kind of significant emotional event happens, it's going to get recorded, and then it's going to be recorded, it's going to be remembered, and then anytime another event happens, it's going to like compound. So this is how negative core beliefs are created. This is how limiting beliefs are created. It just takes one event, and then they're all going to kind of build on that, and that's going to be like the evidence that you use or that people use to say, see, this is why I'm worthless, this is why I'm unlovable, because they're just going to keep like compounding onto that first significant event. Rule number 3, your subconscious mind is your inner 7-year-old. So remember, 0 to 7, 0 to 12, 0 to 21, but it's only as old as like 7 years old. So from 0 to 7, because you're in that like alpha theta wavelength, you're just like a walking subconscious mind. So that's why everything you say to your kids or around your kids is so it's so important to be aware of what you say to them, because they're a sponge and they're going to pick up everything. So if you're being, I don't know, if you're saying something like awful to your little girl, or if you're telling your little boy, like, stop acting like a girl, like he's going to like internalize that even if he's 1. If you're telling your little girl that she needs to be seen and not heard, you know, even if she's 3 and doesn't understand, or even if she's a baby, right? So it's going to pick up everything that's going on in its environment. It takes in everything that it sees. So people sometimes think, oh, well, like I would hear this a lot in cases of like DV, where they think, oh, well, it's just the older kids. Like the baby doesn't know what's going on. The baby's not affected. That baby is just as affected as the kids that are aware and conscious of what's going on. Their nervous systems are going to be dysregulated. They're taking everything in. So we take this in from all of the adults around us, right? So like our parents, our guardians, our caretakers, teachers, any other trusted adults, coaches, anything like that, or anybody like that, aunts, uncles, cousins, whatever. Anything they tell us at that age, we're just going to believe it, right? We believe we believe everything. I was going to use an example, but I don't want to in case you're listening to this with your kids. But parents, you know the things that we tell our kids that are not true, but they believe us, right? They believe us up until a certain age. So, oh yeah, this makes sense. All of these, holidays that we have very special people for, and they believe it. So be very careful of what you're saying to a child, whether it's your child or someone else's child, what you're saying around them. And if you don't put in the effort and the work to understand what's going on in your mind, you're going to spend the rest of your life with this programming that you have from childhood that maybe isn't necessarily serving you. Side note, not everything that gets programmed into our subconscious mind is negative. We're just focusing on the negative because we're focusing on doing the work and like making the positive changes. Sometimes people can have very like positive core beliefs and very positive just beliefs in general, like, oh, I am capable of doing things. I am smart. I always tell my son how smart he is. I always tell him how handsome he is. I always tell him how loving he is. So on a good day, he'll look in the mirror and he'll be like, I'm so handsome. Like, yeah, you are. So it's, they're picking up everything. So if you're not putting in the work to address this, you're going to be stuck with this programming. And they have said that the world is being run by traumatized 7-year-olds that are just living out their childhood. So this is why inner child work is so necessary. Check out our friend Elizabeth. God, I wish I remember her page. What is it? The Elizabeth J?
The Elizabeth J, yeah.
Okay, check out the Elizabeth J.
She might have changed it. Let me come back and confirm that. Keep going, sorry.
We'll put it on the notes. But yeah, if you want to do inner child work, check out her, because this is why it's so, so important. Okay, rule number 4. So it only lives in the present moment. It thinks that everything is happening right now. There's no past, there's no future. It's just, well, whatever is happening now is what it is. It lives in the now, it lives in the current. So holding on to the past affects you in the present moment, right? So that's sometimes how depression is built, right? So depression is usually people reflecting back on things that happened to them. And it also affects how you feel about the future, which is what anxiety is, right? You're worrying about, well, what's going to happen tomorrow? And what if this? And what if that? So it can put you into one of those two states. And those are not helpful for us either. What are you laughing at?
I was on mute, but I snorted. And
Oh,
sometimes when I laugh really hard, I snort. And anyways, I was just thinking, I was like, fuck, because we're Cancer suns, right? And Cancers are naturally nostalgic. So no wonder
we
like
are.
depression is a fucking thing because
God, I'm always a sad girl.
you're sad girl 805.
I am sad girl 805 for sure. Okay.
Okay.
And this is also why, because it lives in the present moment, this is why you need to word your intentions in a certain way so that it's focused in the now and in the present. Like in this moment, I am supported. In this moment, I am cared for, or whatever. You need to word everything as if it's happening already.
Yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense. Yes, I'm going to make a comment at the end. Okay.
Okay.
Please continue.
Okay. Rule number 5, it cannot tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So this is why visualization is so helpful in like helping you decide like what it is you want for your life or who you want to become, because it doesn't know if it happened already or what. It just knows that like, oh, okay, I'm thinking about this. So when you're visualizing, your brain is going to start looking for the things that you're visualizing to try to make that a reality. And the best time for visualization exercises is going to be right before you go to sleep and right when you wake up in the morning, because this is when your subconscious mind is like the most receptive to reprogramming and rewiring. So do your visualizations if you can right before you go to bed and right when you wake up. And this is actually something I've been really good about doing lately. I do visualize at night before bed, before I turn on my affirmations that I loop on repeat. And then I do it first thing in the morning. Now that's kind of like my meditation time also. It's like my quiet time. But that's when my mind is most receptive to taking in that information. So your subconscious mind thinks that everything you're visualizing is actually happening like in that moment. And they did some studies, and I wish I had the like exact details, but they had kind of done some studies on people where they said, okay, we're going to teach you how to ski. So you're actually going to like go out on the slopes and learn how to ski. And then we have another group, and we're not going to teach you, like, you're not going to go out on the slopes or anything, but you're going to visualize yourself like moving through the exercises. You're going to see yourself doing everything you'd be doing if you were learning how to actually ski. And when they conducted the study, they found that the brain was still firing signals to the muscles of the people that were just visualizing and weren't actually skiing. So they were still getting the benefit of it. And I had even heard that it happened with people that were learning how to play the piano. So you're actually going to play the piano and you're just going to visualize yourself playing the piano. And the people that were just visualizing were still able to learn the piano at like a pretty significant rate compared to the people that were actually sitting in front of a piano and doing it in real life. So let's see. Rule number 6. The subconscious mind does not process negative. So it doesn't understand words like don't. It doesn't understand words like not. So if you say, don't think of a purple frog, what are you going to think of?
A purple frog.
You're going to think of a purple frog, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And when you think of a purple frog, do you see the word purple frog or do you see the actual picture of a purple frog?
A literal picture of a purple frog.
Because it works in metaphors and symbols and pictures, right? So you're going to actually see what it is that you're being told not to see. So I always think about it too. And this was another example that Manifestation Babe gave. And I'm like, oh yeah, this makes total sense. So when you go to other countries, sometimes the plumbing's not very good. So it'll say, do not throw your toilet paper in the toilet. And I always forget and I always throw my toilet paper in the toilet. So like a better sign would maybe be, please throw your toilet paper in the trash, right? Because it's like, oh, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what I'm going to do. And so this is why you want to tell your kids something like, instead of saying, be careful, or like, don't fall, what are they going to do? They're probably going to fall. So you want to give them more like affirmative statements. Okay, like, stand on that balance beam nice and straight, or whatever it is that they're doing. Hold on to your cup nice and tight versus don't spill your drink, because then they're going to like spill their drink. Because all the subconscious mind hears is spill your drink, because it's not registering don't. It doesn't register things like that. So don't throw that. What are they going to do? They're probably going to throw it. So
no wonder you're tired all the time, because you're actively thinking of ways in which you're not thinking in a negative. So you're literally reprogramming your mind as you're mothering, which is so interesting.
Yeah. So, like, instead of saying don't throw that, make sure you hold that in your hand nice and tight, something like that. You want to always give them the directions like in the affirmative. And it's so hard because we're so conditioned to don't, no, not, right, all of that. So it is hard. It's a lot of work to remember to use like the correct language. And I talked about intentions earlier, but that's why it's important to say something like, thank you for my wealth versus I don't want to be broke, or I can't afford that. Because when you say I can't afford that, well, and also the subconscious mind is very literal. So it's like, oh, they can't afford it. So it's not going to look for ways to help you afford something. But if you say like, I don't want to be broke, it's like, oh, I want to be broke, right? Because it's not registering the don't. Rule number 7 is it follows the path of least resistance. So it's going to conserve the energy that we have and install habits. And so this is why, like, a lot of times we just act out of habit. We're not really thinking about what we're doing. We're just kind of like doing because that's just what we're used to. And so a lot of times the resistance is going to come up because now we're stepping outside of our comfort zone and we're trying to do something different, and that isn't always easy. So if you think about trying to change a habit, it can bring up so much resistance because we just want to do things the way we're already doing it, the way we've memorized it. And so if you even think about something as simple as the way you get dressed, the way you wash your body in the shower, like, you don't realize it, but you have a routine. You have a certain way that you do things. Like, you probably put the same sock on. You probably, put your pants on starting at the same leg every time. Well, now you're going to do it in reverse. And the mind's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, I'm not used to this. What are we doing? So it's really hard to change that habit, right? So think about people who are smokers and they're like, oh, I want to like stop smoking. Well, that's a really hard habit to break because the chemicals in there are addictive, but also it's just part of the habit, right? So sometimes people don't even realize what they're doing. They don't even realize that they're lighting up. And it's so hard to break that habit. And it's like so uncomfortable to do that. But once we install the new habit, it's kind of easy for us to continue that. So if you're trying to meditate every day for 5 minutes, well, if you're able to do that for, 21 days, 30 days, it's going to get easier for you. But if you're just kind of doing it sporadically, like, it's not going to be a habit. It's not going to be something that you're used to doing. And so this is why reprogramming the mind also takes time, because you have to like work at it. You have to work on doing your meditations. You have to work on like setting aside the time to do hypnosis or EFT tapping or whatever it is that you're doing for your reprogramming method. Even something as simple as listening to audios, right? You still have to get in the habit of, okay, I listen to this audio when I'm getting ready in the morning. I listen to this audio when I need quiet time at work, right? Because with subliminals, you're not hearing words. So you could technically be listening to that while you're working, but also it's a habit. Are you listening to music? Are you doing something during that time? So, like, figuring out how to make that part of your day. Rule number 8 is your subconscious mind is going to keep you safe at all costs. So it contains a blueprint of our physical body, and it's going to do everything it can to preserve our physical body. And so it has it of our physical body now, and then also what our physical body would be like in perfect health. Well, there's not a lot of people that I know that are in perfect health. So again, it's like, okay, this is like safe. This is what's familiar. This is how we're going to stay. And so if you're someone who thinks like me, like, oh, I'm always going to be fat. I'm always going to like look like this. then you're always going to look like that, because your mind is like, oh, yep, they're always going to look like this. It's always going to follow your commands and like kind of follow your like wishes and desires, and it's going to keep you in that state. And I think we follow some people that have kind of talked about how they've literally changed their bodies by changing the way that they think, right? They're giving their mind new commands. So their mind is giving different commands like to the cells in our body to make the changes that we want to make. And I think I've talked about this before, how I think I literally like manifested my infertility issues by saying it's going to be so hard for me to get pregnant. It's going to be so hard for me to get pregnant. Well, my mind heard that and it went to work on my body and it made it very hard for me to get pregnant. So, so that's like the other part. So sometimes when you think about your dream life and what you want in life and partnership, whatever, it might not feel safe to you. So if you think like, oh, I want to be a millionaire, but you think, oh, but millionaires have to like work so much, they never get to spend time with their families, they're always gone for holidays, and money is awful, then are you ever going to be a millionaire? Like, probably not, because it doesn't feel safe to you, because you equate being a millionaire with like sacrifice or something that's bad. And so your mind's like, nope, we're not going to do that. Consciously, you might want that, but subconsciously, it's like, nope, this doesn't feel safe to us. And so we're not going to do it. And it's going to gravitate towards what's familiar rather than what's unknown, even if the unknown is what you want. So I would see this all the time in therapy with clients that were coming in and they were in the most toxic relationships and they were like, I don't want this, I don't want this. But they were so used to it. It was so familiar that they were like, well, this is like, their nervous system is like comfortable with that. That's what they're used to. So when it's like, oh, I don't have this chaos, they were in relationships that were like stable and it's like, oh, this is boring, I don't want to be with this person. And then they're with this toxic person, they're like, this is awful, I hate this. But that's what's familiar to them, so that's what they're going to seek without realizing it. Rule number 9, the subconscious mind doesn't know good from bad or right from wrong. So if you want $1 million, it's not judging you because it doesn't see money as like good or bad. Like it just sees it as like a neutral energy. And so it just kind of takes everything like as is, as truth. It's not good, it's not bad, it just is. And so there's no judgment there. So if you think about, you want to plant a sunflower, right? And it's like, okay, I'm going to plant this sunflower, and is the ground going to say, no, you can't plant the sunflower here, you can only plant a rose bush where I'm at? Well, the ground doesn't care what you're putting in it, as long as you're like taking care of it and tending to it. It doesn't matter what you put in there. The mind is the same thing. It doesn't care what you're it doesn't care like what you're putting in it. It's not deeming it as good or bad. It just is. So if you're constantly feeding it negative, it's going to cultivate like that negativity. If you're feeding it positive, it's going to cultivate the positivity regardless of what it is. You might think it's good, someone else might think it's bad. The mind doesn't care. It just is. And so sometimes what's in our subconscious mind is normal, right? It's just neutral. So think about, for example, if you grow up in a family where there was abuse going on, you might grow up thinking, oh, well, this happens in every family. This is like super normal. It was so sad. We were in Target a couple weeks ago and I turned around and there was this young couple, this like, homie don't you know me guy and his girlfriend or wife and their kids. And she had
never heard that before.
She had black eyes and bruises like on her face. Yeah. And her kids are there. And my husband looked and he was like, and I go, yeah, I saw. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, she probably grew up thinking that was normal. And she looked like she was in like a freeze response. Like she was just very like timid and quiet and kind of,
Yeah, meek.
Yeah, but she grew up probably thinking that that's normal. And now her kids are going to grow up thinking that that's normal. So her daughter's going to grow up thinking, oh, well, They just yell, and it just is what it is. The boys are going to grow up thinking, well, I can do whatever I want. Or, it doesn't have to all be bad. So you can grow up in a household that's really loving, and you're seeing really like loving, healthy relationships. And you're like, oh, this is normal, right? So it's kind of like whatever you see is going to be your norm. Again, whether it's good or bad, because the mind doesn't deem it as good or bad. It just is. It's just part of like your programming and your conditioning. And the final rule number 10, is it is wired to serve by obeying your commands. So your subconscious mind obeys and your conscious mind commands. So whatever command your conscious mind is giving, your subconscious mind is going to obey. So if you're saying, I'm always going to be broke, right? Consciously, you're saying that. You're commanding your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is like, got it. You're always going to be broke. I'm never going to find money-making opportunities for you. I'm going to distort and delete all of that, and you're never going to have it.
I'm going to send this to a couple of our friends and listen to that piece that you just sent. I'm going to send this as a clip to them.
Yeah. Or if you say, I'm never going to find a good man, I'm never going to find a good woman, I'm never going to find a good partner, your subconscious mind is like, bet. Not going to happen. Never going to happen. You're not going to find a good person. I'm going to send you, the universe is going to send you the worst partners ever. So be careful of what you say, because your mind is going to obey. And so your commands are, again, your desires, your intentions, and your standards. So be very intentional with what you're commanding, because your mind is going to say, okay, got you. We're going to do this. And the subconscious mind is what's responsible for, again, like helping you see those things in your reality so that it can fulfill those commands. So whatever you say, it's going to look for it, whether it's good or bad. Again, it doesn't see it as good or bad, but it's just going to look for whatever you give it. And then the critical faculty, which I talked about earlier, which was the bouncer at the nightclub, that's like the only barrier to the commands. So remember, if the bouncer is just letting everybody in, all those commands in, well, that's not going to be good, right? All those negative commands. You want to start bringing in like positive commands and commands that are actually going to like suit you and benefit you. You can also, though, use different modalities of like subconscious reprogramming. So I mentioned earlier, like tapping, subliminals, hypnoses, visualizations, things like that will kind of help you break through that barrier so that you can get that good stuff in to start reprogramming and like rewire and delete like all those negative beliefs that like aren't serving you. But your mind is going to need crystal clear orders to follow, because it's very literal. So again, you want to avoid saying things like don't or not. Like you want to be very, very literal and very intentional with how you command your mind. And it also loves to answer questions. And so it's going to seek out answers for you. And so there's this thing called askformations. So ask and then formation. So for example, how am I so successful in my business? So if you keep asking yourself that, your subconscious mind is going to go out and be like, oh, okay, let's figure this out. We got to figure out how you're going to be so successful in your business. Or why am I in such a loving and healthy relationship? And it's going to think, well, why are you? And it's going to look for those answers to help you come up with that in your life, right? So it's going to go out and seek that and like bring it into your reality. So ask yourself different questions for whatever it is that you're trying to bring into your life. I think you can find a lot of that on the Tickety Talk. I haven't looked it up specifically, but I heard that that's where it came from. So,
but also be mindful of the information that you are sourcing from the Tickety Talk.
From the Tickety Talk, yeah.
It's not always 100, so.
It's not. Anyway, that's all I got. We're at an hour.
I know. I was like, oh, she's going to nail it. And with edits, we should be literally around the hour. But I just wanted to say I was grinning and laughing the whole time because I could just tell you're so passionate about this. And I can't wait for you to launch your offerings. So stay tuned for that. And also, she's going to list her email list in the show notes, guys. So you could sign up and put me on there, Nichole. Look at her face.
I don't
want
want to just have people give. No, I want to give people something. Well, y'all, what do you want from me? Like, message me and tell me something you want from me, and that you would be willing to give me your email address for. And I'm not gonna like send you crazy emails, like. But like, what do you want from me?
She's a generator. She's meant to respond. She needs something to work. Manny, well, there you go. It's the same thing, but like on steroids. Generator on steroids, basically. So she needs something to respond to because that applies to many gens and generators. And I just wanted to say my takeaway from this episode is that your brain is basically your bitch. Like, it truly is. Like, that is.
So how are you going to treat it? What are you going to say to it?
Well, actually, you have me inspired to go and do a whole meditation before I go to bed tonight. So I'm going to do that.
Yay.
Yeah. So.
All right. That's all I got.
Which card that you did so good. I loved it. And I need to go back and listen to this a couple times. Which do you want to do, Nichole? We're going to do the OG. Look, it's so OG. The little thing is flapping if you're watching YouTube. Or it is, or the light seers. It's up to you.
The OG.
The OG. All right. Stand by, people. I'm going to mute myself real quick.
And I got through that without having to blow my nose much, or...
I know.
It's been a mess.
Brianna, you have some funny reels to work with for this week. All right, so
you're welcome.
You're welcome. The goddesses.
We're just over here creating content unintentionally.
I got to post to the tickety talk. So, all right, let's shuffle. I feel like I'm doing Etsy orders nonstop, guys. I'm always shuffling these days. Ooh,
what we get?
Emotional healing through the subconscious mind, guys. The mother wound, Mother Mary. This card comes up. Literally. And okay, so something that you didn't talk about, but I feel like is actually really relevant, is a common concept that's discussed in this work is how one gets everything from their mom, right? So that's a whole like other element to this. But anyways, emotional healing, one way that you can heal a set of emotions is by quite literally working with the subconscious mind. So I feel like the card speaks for itself. Lean into the work, guys.
Two things about the mother. Okay, so you know the actress from Precious? What is her name? Gabrielle Sidibe?
Yeah.
So she, I think, has her degree in psychology. And so she went on a talk show a long time ago to talk about how she spent 4 years in college getting her degree just to learn that it's all her mother's fault. So totally everything in psychology, it always goes back to your mother. Second thing about the mother, Modern Family, one of the best shows ever. There was an episode where he was talking about, you know, how mothers are like, you know, like very smothering or whatever. And he's like, you know, you can't spell the word smother without mother. You've never heard of anybody being fathered to death. So anyway, my son was reading a book the other day and he read the word smother and he was reading it out loud and he's like, smother. And he's like, hey, this word has the word mother in it. It says smother, but it also says mother. And I was like, oh my God, it's like he was watching Modern Family. He's like a mini Phil Dunphy.
I love that. That's, yeah. So it's all the mother's fault, apparently.
It is. So no matter how good your mother is, she still messed you up somehow. Anyway, that is all.
This is a great episode. Guys, leave us a review. We're almost at 100. Can't even believe it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. Check out the show notes. And until next time.
Bye.